Hello.
I'm sorry, everybody and their mother decided to just call me.
I hear you. I figured that you were on the phone or something.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get the person off the phone, and then it's just like, geez. Okay, so do you have to call me in order to start recording?
No, just give me a second and I'll turn it on. Hi, it's Steve Erickson. It's February 28th, 2012, and I'm here with Courtney. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yes.
All right.
Courtney Labonte.
I can put a video up of your testimony if you want.
That's fine.
All right. You're a non-custodial parent in Connecticut, and what are you facing?
What I'm facing, Steve, is a lot of brick walls in this court I'm dealing with. I am in Rockville Family Court, and it seems the harder I've fought, the less I got. I started filing motions in 2010. My son was, I was the custodial parent for 12 and a half years, and never took his dad to court for any child support, never dictated when he could be a parent. I just didn't think that it was based off of money. I think being a parent should be based off of love. And, he helped out when he could, but I wasn't going to, hold him to it because times get tough. And I found that he was lying on his financials, and that was disturbing because they had been going off of my old earnings. So I had filed some subpoenas, several of them. People he had worked for, the contracted work for. And with what they had showed on 6/28/2011, with the transcripts that I had and what was entered into evidence, he was making money. And he was also getting $130, but it was actually $150 because for some reason I was always in arrears. And the reason I was always in arrears was because he was getting $109 a week from the Department of Social Services. He was also getting food stamps. So I was held accountable for that. I was on unemployment, so it came out weekly. And it did for almost 2 years.
How much did you have to live on per week after everything was taken out?
Around 200, if that. So it was difficult. I put in, since they had made the order, I put in motions for modification and went to the court and never could get any answers. I called child support enforcement and I said, well, my first question to them was, well, you didn't pay child support for, 10 years, and now you're coming after me saying, taking $150 a week from me. So consequently, paying that amount of money and getting unemployment, it did run out on September 6th, 2011.
So then what happened?
What happened was on 8/16/2011, I did make it known to Magistrate Catherine Hutchinson that my unemployment would be running out. And she also informed me that they had been going off my old earnings this entire time, which was only supposed to be $87 a week, which is a $63 difference. Okay. I had done many, let's say, there's 5 motions for modification post-judgment. And I recall one day, it was 3/2011, I forget the date, but it was Mark D. Peabody that I had approached. And I had said to him, this was after that date, but I had paper showing that I was in court and the father wasn't. He wouldn't let me go in front of the judge because the father wasn't there. Well, that's not my fault. I should have won on a default motion. His father chose to come to court when he wanted to. And it's really been a nightmare with everything. The number of subpoenas that had been filed, which were filed on 6/28, as I had said, and they consisted of 2 years, showing 2 years of his gains and losses for owning his own business, personal and whatever, just his financials. There was another one showing his bills for the past 4 months. So we get an adequate or an actual number of what he was paying. Because the last financial affidavit that I had from him was from 6/23/2010. And we had been to court several times after that.
Okay. Were you?
And go ahead, Steve.
Were you required to pay money when you weren't making any money, or more than you were making?
Yes, that's actually going to come up after I finish explaining the subpoenas.
Go ahead.
Like I said, they were first filed. They were filed on 6/15. They were delivered by a marshal to the proper people. And on 6/28, we went in. The court was unaware, this is what they said, that this was going on. Yeah, that they needed a special hearing. They didn't have time. But we did get things into evidence. On 8/16, now on 6/28 and 8/16, it was Catherine Hutchinson. She was, a little confused, but more on the fair side, listening to what I had to say. So she had said that we would do a special hearing on 8/16/2011. We did so. And on 6/28, she told the father to be there at 2 o'clock. And that he was to have everything with him. Because he had put our son's name on bill. He had not been honest, and he had been committing fraud in the state of Connecticut. And mind you, I had called the Department of Social Services 15 times.
Could you have proven that he was committing fraud?
Can I prove? Well, yes. With what he had made in 2010, what he was getting for child support, for a family of 2 in the state of Connecticut, you cannot gross more than $1,200 a month. He had gotten a check from one company, which I will not name, for $19,720. And then he had gotten 3 separate checks from another company, which I will not name, for a total of $6,300. And then my child support for $6,700. Now, if you do the math, it's really not that hard to figure out that he was making grossing more than $1,200 a month.
How old is the child now?
What was that, Steve?
How old is your son?
He is 14. And sadly, he's struggling. having a very difficult time. He's failing in school. His father just basically teaches him that, money buys you everything. We talked to him about school, and he doesn't want to talk about it. He's failing everything, but it's not a big deal. He goes home, he plays video games, he's not active in sports, nothing. So it's truly sad because he does have he is special ed. He has ADD, and he has issues. He's very polite. He's not, a rude child. But he simply goes to school and he's just there. And what I want for my son, which any parent should want, is for them to be more than just be, I want him to excel. I want him to try, but at the rate that he's going and what he's being taught, who needs school? It's not a big deal. And the school has tried very hard to do everything it can. And, it's just really frustrating to see that, it's not just fathers, it's mothers.
Yeah, well, non-custodial parents, I hear so many stories that the people that run the courts aren't fair, and if they make money by harming people, by forcing you to have legal representation that you pay for yourself, you pay for your child, and pay, and if you have to pay more than what you make, then you can end up in jail. What I'd like to hear is names of officials who abused their power, acted rudely, and what they did and approximately when and what court.
Okay, I will name Magistrate Harris Lifshitz.
And that's Rockville Court in Vernon?
That's in the Rockville Family Court, 69 Brooklyn Street, Rockville, Connecticut.
GA-19?
He is, no, it's not a GA because it's, family court, civil housing. So it's 69 Brooklyn Street. And then up the road is the court, the criminal court.
Yeah.
So it's separate from that. This man is, I had spoken live on this issue, how it was really hard to call him honorable because there is no honor there.
And he's a magistrate, not a judge.
Right, and magistrates do not have judicial powers. But I've sat in there several times, and he has no problem throwing anybody in jail. He's a magistrate, and he can't make decisions, but ultimately he's an attorney. And I had called Barbara Quinn's office at one point, this was months back, to ask for the spelling of his name. And I had said to the secretary, or whomever answered the phone, I had said, I'm going to say his name, and it's going to sound like I'm swearing, but I'm not. And he said, Delicious. And I said, yeah. And she said, well, we know he's bad, but he only has a year left. And I said to her, you know he's bad, but he only has a year left. I'm like, do you know how many families he's ruined? And he played doctor on the stand. We sat in there, and there were several people that were with me that witnessed this man putting people in jail because they were disabled. There was this woman that had cervical cancer, and he didn't care. He wouldn't change her order.
So she's going to die in
This
jail.
other man, excuse me?
She's going to die in jail?
She was not put in jail, but she, who knows now what has happened. The ways have changed. I mean, the economy in this state is horrible. And what really bothers me is it is all about money. Family court is, the new way to make money. Everybody gets a piece of the pie, and yes, they'll run you dry. So, going back to the subpoenas, as he was ordered to by the magistrate Captain Hutchinson, he never produced any of it. So we went to 9/20, 2011. Okay, so a subpoena, it says right down there, you are commanded to bring with you and provide the following. And he never did. So on 9/20, I watched child support enforcement continue to put my file to the bottom. When I had gotten the transcripts from that day, Harris Lipschitz, that's when he took over on 9/20, 2011. We had 4 minutes. And he said, we need a special hearing. And I said, Your Honor, we already had a special hearing on 8/16. And nothing came of it. Although Catherine Hutchinson did ask, what do you want me to do, put him in jail? And I said, well, yes, Your Honor, because you had told him on 6/28 that he was to provide this information. You told him to be here at 2, and he showed up at 3:30. So, what's the point of having a subpoena if they're not going to enforce the law?
Do you think they either have it in for you or they have preferential treatment for him for any reason? Looking back, not only on myself, but as other parents that are obligated to pay child support, they're the ones that really get the dirt end of the stick, if you might say. He does. The day, one day, I think it was 9/20, he had put 6 people in jail. Now, these people were working. They were trying. So they can't work if they're in jail.
No. He doesn't lower child support, and he said, whoever came up with a 5-day-a-week job search, and this is verbatim, I don't care. It's 7 days a week. You will be out there looking for a job. You will walk, you will do this, you will do that. And there's no internet applications accepted.
No.
So, it's his courtroom, it's his way. So when we went back to court on 1/23, 2012, I had a motion for contempt because he had not produced a financial affidavit. I had a motion to modify, yet once again, that had been in there since 6/15, 2011, to be heard on 6/28, and on 8/16, 2011, and on 9/20, 2011. So 1/23, 2012, we were heard, and he wanted to hear, what was going on, and he said, well, you're able to make this amount, and I said, Your Honor, this is my situation. No, I'm not collecting unemployment anymore. It stopped on September 6th. I don't have a place to live, and I have a heart condition. And he didn't care.
Well, the actual, I mean, I don't know what I would put for a title for the post, but homeless woman, uh, to be put in jail with a heart condition. I mean, that's a little bit much. I think that I don't know. There's
That's
no.
an understatement. That's an understatement. And, I'd like to say for the record, on 8/16/2011, Catherine Hutchinson had said that child support enforcement was not to hold me in contempt. And what do I get? A letter. In contempt.
Well, if they hold people in contempt for trying to get a job, I mean, if you can, there's very few ads in the newspaper, and on the internet, like Craigslist, if you call and email, there's very few of them that, even though they're posting jobs, they very few get back to you. And
true, and the fact that I have been turned down because I'm overqualified, and I did not believe it. I thought I was just being blown off, but it is true.
And if
they can say you're overqualified for our job. I've worked in the medical field, but I'm not healthy. I mean,
and
I was standing in court, and I'm hanging on, to the bench. I'm just trying to take in everything. We had actually went into Judge Flores' court. He's the judge. And I believe he's a little bit more open to what's going on with the parents, and open to what's going on.
And people can be listed with, 2 or 3 or whatever number of temp agencies, and then not get a call, even if they're calling in all the time. And should they get, credit for still trying to get work? I mean, it seems like they just want to put people in jail.
Well, exactly. And there is a program. It's I'll have to go back to it to find it, but it can help people. Children's First America. I'm sorry, that's the name of it. They're a nonprofit agency that helps people such as ourselves, or myself. That's would I love to provide for my son? Yes. But when I'm being overcharged and there's fraud being committed, who's gonna really own up to that? And as I had said, I had called the Department of Social Services 15 times, never got a call back. Although I did get a call back on that 15th time. The reason being is because I called the FBI and said this. This department is giving the showman money, and he's making far too much to get that money, and that's federal money.
You called the FBI on your ex-husband?
We were never married, but yes, I did.
Okay.
So when I left the message for the Department of Social Services, they wanted to know why I called the FBI, and I said, well, he's wondering why you're not doing your job. I've been calling you for a year now. So you're not doing your job, And she's like, I had sent it to Patricia Wilson. I had sent out a mass email to legislators, senators, representatives, telling them my story. I mean, it's hard enough being away from my child and not to be able to see him as often as I would like. But I think what hurts the most is the fact that the abuse of their powers, and how I'm just looked at as a number. I'm not looked at who I am. I'm somebody's mother. I'm somebody's daughter. And, my son loves me for me.
I think that there were grand juries if they did away with the judges, and you had average people, say 9 people. You need more, but have 9 people sit on a case, and they're the grand jury, and they decide, what if somebody is not paying enough child support based on guidelines, and some sort of remedy that can be agreed upon between 9 people. You have a judge that may get kickbacks for throwing people in jail. Judges were lawyers. They have associations with lawyers, and I could probably put a link, but they swear an oath, a secret oath, to each other, and that supersedes the U.S. Constitution. So they really.
What happened to the oath is they swore to uphold the law and protect the people.
And the Connecticut Judiciary Committee, I believe there's 24 lawyers or associated with lawyers, probably even more, out of 45.
On that committee.
Yeah, out of legislators. And you have people that are involved in police unions that are also judicial workers and other official union. So they want to rig legislation so more of their more jobs go to more people, so they're being paid with tax dollars, so there's more abuse. So they're not looking out for the people. The lawyers don't look out for the people because they want more money. You keep going into court. The more unfair it is, the more money they make. So if lawyers are legislating as legislators, they're lawyers first, and they don't care about you. And then the rest of the people on the committee, they have aides that are either going to be lawyers or associated with lawyers or have to be lawyers to write the legislation. So, lawyer, 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 liar, 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 thief, 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 and there you go. And what I'd like to hear is what the magistrate and others did wrong and why should they be removed. And then the second question would be, were you retaliated against for making any sort of complaints?
I'm not sure about the retaliation part yet. Well, in a sense, I do sense the retaliation.
If you called the FBI, they're probably not happy with you. But
no, they're not. But I'm not okay with people committing fraud. I'm not okay with the fact that I'm not well, and they've taken everything from me. I have pride and I have heart, but it doesn't go with the rules. I mean, I will read something short from the Child Support and Arrearage Guidelines, and this is part of the preamble. It's under the letter I, first 3 pages in, right page, left column. No obligation for parents with less than $60 net income. The Commission determined that child support obligations for non-custodial parents earning less than $50 per week net income should be eliminated, despite its adherence to the principles indicated by the 1999 Commission regarding imposition of obligations in low-income cases. Parents with such extremely low income are truly desperate circumstances, and their first concern, even before the payment of child support obligations, understandably, is their own economic survival. The Commission also deemed the $1 to $5 that would be expected of such parents under the 1999 guidelines primarily symbolic, and from a judicial and agency perspective, an unwarranted administrative burden to record, process, and enforce. So you have it in writing. Am I trying to escape child support? No.
I just think
in any way, shape, or form. But have been overpaying for quite a long time. They've taken my income tax, and as I said, I was always in arrears because he was getting that $109 a week in food stamps, and I was held responsible to pay back that money.
Well, I know some of the history of why the courts are set up the way they are. Originally, I think the drug laws and the family courts were set up to punish minorities and punish people who didn't stay in intact families. So if the man it's generally the man, or it used to be, who is the one who left a woman who isn't able to fend for herself, make money, and they had to punish the man as much as possible and get as much money from the man as possible. But that's before there were a lot of women in the workforce. And now
right. Now they throw them in debtor's prison, and they call us parents deadbeats. We're not deadbeats. We're just dead broke. And how is it that you're supposed to find a job? You're filling out an application, and you say, well, I need this day off, and this day off, because I have court.
And they keep running you through. And
so they make it almost impossible, as if that's where they want to see me. So I will say, on the record, I did appeal his decision. Will it go through? I'm not the maker. It's this tangled web they wove to entrap we the people. And what happened to the Constitution? What happened to the color of law? What happened to due process?
All right.
What happened to the oath that they swore upon?
The elected officials, let's say they were willing to do something for families, for children, for the economy. What would you ask them to do to improve your situation and the situation for people like you?
I would ask them, as I have asked them before, simply help, to listen, to go sit in that room and watch what happened. Then somebody there not going to notice, and you'll see. You'll see what's going on. But then, maybe they could just turn their nose up because it's just easier that way.
I think there should be cameras in the courtrooms. The juror.
Well, actually, I did meet with Senator Coleman, with several other people, and we did discuss that. We brought up the issues within the family court and the housing court. It was myself, and I had 1, 2, 4, 5 or 6 that were about family. So we had all gotten together, and I had put a bullet point presentation together on paper and handed it out, and I named all the issues with the family court and the clerk's office, because the clerks, they're always losing paperwork. I was in court to the beginning of the year, and I was changing things around and filing appearances because I don't have an address. I have a simple P.O. box. And they couldn't find it. So I had to go back in, and walking into that courtroom, it's really scary for me because so much has been done there. It's like going back to a battlefield or reopening a wound. And I've discovered, I've been through, holding the table. My arm goes numb. I can't see anything. I can hear things, but they're far away. And, you know, I just get really nervous going into court, wondering, is this really worth it? I mean, is this really worth it to them? To know that, you know, I'm sick. I can't change that. And the more stress that's put on me, the worse it is.
Do you have to worry about going to jail next time that you're in court?
I may. I'm up to around $3,000. But since I put the appeal in, I'm hoping I can go off of that and say I'm waiting for my appeal. And, you know, if they choose to put me in there, I know I have good people out there that know what I'm going through. I do have a close network of friends. And it's just unfair, you know. Look into the future, and if this continues, where are the family trees going to be? They're going to be empty. Because people don't think back to the days when, you know, they once loved each other and they had this child. It becomes, you know, a battle. And like I said in the beginning, it was never about money for him to be a father to our child.
Well, if there's, I mean, you weren't married, but if there's only one marriage and 4 that actually survives now, it means that 3/4 of the people at least get divorced, and a lot of those divorces, there's children.
Right, and they suffer.
So there should, I mean, it shouldn't be just a boon for lawyers. I believe I've heard the figure of 70% of wealth is lost in divorce, and who gets that? It's the state and courts and the attorneys. Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to say, when I met with Senator Coleman and the people that were there, they were excellent people. They have been abused by the system, very much so. And we had proposed that they have GAL training. They have all different sorts of training. Okay, Senator Coleman, why can't there be something made up for people such as ourselves? And we will go into court and watch what goes on and document what's going on in these courts.
Well,
for those of us that don't have jobs.
Well,
right here will do that, you know, but there needs to be cameras, you know, until that is in place.
I think
help us, we'll help you.
I think they shouldn't show jurors, and I think children under 18 or 16, they should have their faces and their voices obscured. But I think it should be on TV.
Names, right.
That way, people see what is done to people in the courts, what they're paying for, and if 70% of wealth is basically given to lawyers so they can have these extra vacation houses, these fancy cars, boats, yeah. They live in the lifestyles of rich and famous, and
they make more. These judges, I would like to say, make more than our own governor.
Some make a lot of money. They $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour, $1,500 an hour. I mean, who's worth that? They
make more than our governor, a judge.
Yeah, and
he runs the state. They run a courtroom. Let's see. They say this is my courtroom. Mine. Actually, it's ours.
Well, there's
the judicial branch. That's our house, not yours.
A 2-class system. There's lawyers and judges that are held to different rules than everybody else, and the legislators are lawyers. So they'll
Right.
basically take whatever they can for themselves, have immunity from prosecution and civil liability, and then we're left holding the bag. So the economy, as much as it's being ruined by international banks, I think more so it's being ruined by the court system, because the banks would not be able to do what they do, and the lawyers wouldn't be able to do what they do if there wasn't corrupt courts that are basically the product of corrupt legislators who are making money hand over fist somewhere, whether it's bribes or their spouses are getting money or they're told about special loans or investments they can get all sorts of money out of. So they are doing
Yes,
something.
it does. I can say this, but there's a bank, and money goes there for them, and money goes there for them, and I can't really say much more on that. But if only.
Which bank, or can you say how you know, or anybody can?
No, that's it's just something that's out there, and I don't know. I'm not going to speak on something I don't know the facts on.
Well, I've heard.
But
I've heard rumors myself where insiders talk about money going here, money going there, money coming from here, and
right. I actually have heard, and this is I'm going to say for the record, this is what I've heard, that anytime you file a motion, there's money attached to that. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I really don't understand how they can call family court when never once is a child asked about in the magistrate part, that is.
I don't have the information in front of me. I haven't done the research, but people that I trust and that do know talk about restraining orders. The courts get federal tax dollars, the state does, for restraining orders,
right.
for putting people in jail, for processing people in classes, and just basically if they string the court cases along and keep pushing the people through, federal tax dollars come into a state. So they want to keep people in the system. They get the federal tax dollars,
Right.
and then lawyers get paid. So, why end
right.
Why end the
I'm
abuse?
a pro se litigant, and so aren't many other people I know, and that's really been the way that I can't really say. I've never had an attorney represent me in the family court, but who's to say? They're going to take everything anyways. So it's about educating yourself in knowledge and just trying your best and knowing the laws. But when you can't even recite case law or demand that they take judicial notice for the record because you're interrupted, when you're not allowed to speak and you're yelled at.
All right,
how do you have a case there?
We're at 44 minutes. If you were speaking to the legislators, say we hadn't had this conversation to this point, if you just were speaking just to the legislators in Connecticut, what would you ask for yourself, and what would you ask for to be changed for the rest of the parents?
Well, I'm not a selfish person, Steve, so it would be definitely based towards anybody in a situation such as myself. It doesn't take money to be a parent, and unfortunately maybe they haven't faced tough times, but tough times do occur. And with them themselves being attorneys, why won't they step down and help and lend a hand? If we the people got them there, why won't they help we the people?
Well, you're asking.
And it needs to be taken a look at. The laws need to be followed, not made up as we go.
Well, I think that the reason that elected officials are in office are to enrich themselves and enrich people that they know, or who they know, rather. So as far as caring, if you do something, if you're a lawyer and you do something for somebody, then you're not putting money in another lawyer's pocket.
Correct.
And if a child isn't being taken away or placed or in the system, there's money that's not going into the state. So these people are not for you, they are against you. And if people took the time to look at some of the backgrounds, I'll post a link to who these people are. They're lawyers, and look at their affiliations. They're the Masons. They're religious organizations, such as a synagogue, where they send huge amounts of money somewhere else. They're raising money. So
why is there a fund for people such as ourselves? That could help us. An alternative way, such as Children's First America. They're trying. Why is it that this is continuing and that places, other states, the FBI have raided the family court?
Well, I've been advocating for judicial reform for probably since the late 90s. And I think in order to get somebody's attention, you need some sort of independent movie. Not mainstream Hollywood, because they're for the lawyers, they're for the corporations, they're for the banks. You want a story showing just what the corruption is doing to families, just to show the breakdown of the family, that how you riches to rags is what America is now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, it really breaks my heart to know that our children are going to one day be making these choices. Well, and what they're being taught. I'm not so sure of the future.
I think there should be term limits. I mean, go in, serve your community, and then get out. There shouldn't be people in for decades. There shouldn't be judges in for decades. Help your community, and then get out. Let somebody else in. And
right. I have to make, there was just judges reelected, and there was this one gentleman, and I'm not saying he's bad, and there's good and evil in everything, okay? Or good and bad in wherever you go, okay? And there's a lot of bad judges, but there's some good judges, and I've met some really excellent judges that I, would shake their hand and say, wow, that was excellent. That is what it's supposed to be like. But why is it? It's like the family court mafia.
Well, there's also no consistency in how people are treated. If somebody has political connections or money, or both, they get through the courts basically unscathed. What happened to Skakel? I mean, he was, suspected of murdering, was it Martha Moxley?
It's who you know.
Thomas Farrell, I may be mispronouncing his name, West Hartford, Connecticut. He was in possession of military-grade anthrax. And U.S. Attorney John Danaher III bent over backwards to get, he didn't have to show up for probation, just get a special form of probation where the charges could be erased. I mean, this is in 2001 where the big anthrax scare. I mean, what's he doing with military-grade anthrax? Why is a U.S. attorney trying to cover it up? I found the PDF and I posted it online, and so that's basically covering up anthrax. And what type of conspiracy was that?
That's a big question in itself.
And why is somebody supposed to be prosecuting the case, bending over backwards to cover it up? Then John Danaher III becomes the state police commissioner, and now he's Judge John Danaher III. So you can see that federal prosecutor to state police commissioner, and then to state judge. Is he getting a pension from each place? Who does he know? And I could say something rude, but it basically shows that the transition. It shows that it's just corrupt, and these people should not be transitioning back and forth, side to side, up and down, and fixing cases, rigging courts, and ripping us off.
I'd like to also state, when I spoke at the judicial building and made testimony, although it wasn't somebody being reappointed, it was about Magistrate Harris Lifshitz. And I was approached by many representatives, senators, about the situation. And at the end of my testimony, Senator Coleman, who I do find to be a kind gentleman, I think he could do a little more. I definitely tried contacting him and giving him the information, and my many cries for help, and they just, the mass emails I sent out, they just sent me to, the what is it called, Steve? I'm sorry. The review committee.
Judicial review, or?
Yeah, judicial review committee. But going there, that's incomplete right now. And you're going to be judged by these people's coworkers.
You talk about this statewide grievance committee for lawyers? What are you talking about?
For the judges.
Yeah. A friend of mine, Chris Kennedy, said that basically when you complain about a judge, the complaint is shredded unread. So he made the joke that if you want to save taxpayers money, is you make a judicial complaint, you type it up, and then you shred it yourself. So that way you're not paying the state to shred it up for you.
Well, I saw an excellent cartoon of walking into family court and having it be, just you shred it right there. You just shred your paperwork yourself. But I have to say, again, for people to really hear what I'm saying, I was approached by, I believe, an attorney, and he had said, Harris Lifshitz is not on the bench anymore. And he said, sir, he is. He's in Rockville, 600 Brooklyn Street on Tuesdays. And he says, no, he's not. And I said, but he is, sir. I can show you. I have documents. And he said, Governor Malloy wrote, made it public that he did not want him on the bench anymore. I said, I know. And he said, well, what is he still doing there? I said, I don't know. Why don't you ask the $1 million question? Because I have no idea.
Well, maybe all the judges in any given jurisdiction might be getting bribes. The Ninth Circuit judges in California, if I'm correct in reciting what Joseph Zernick, he was a professor in Connecticut. He's emailed me quite a bit of information. The Countrywide Loan and other bank loan scandals in California, judges are bribed as much as $50,000 plus or minus each, and there's hundreds of judges, and so they fix cases for the banks, for each other, and
I've heard that as well, but I can't confirm that it's true because I wasn't there. But yes, I've heard that.
And the former prosecutor and then attorney Richard I. Fine, I can post links to that, but they just left him in jail to rot because he's a lawyer trying to fix the system, and they fixed him.
You know, this is speaking with you and going public with my story. I can hope of a few things. That it will encourage others to speak out. That people will hear what I'm saying. And I'd like to say this. When I stated that I don't have a home, that I don't have a job, and that I'm sick, I have a heart condition, and he says it's not good enough, that the order is to stay the same at $150 a week. So
right.
What do you do with that?
I don't know.
I guess I wait my turn.
All right. Do you have a closing statement, or I'll talk to you after I...
If anybody in the legislative hears what I'm saying, you've heard me before, and you know, I just, somebody needs to really listen, and I urge other people to speak about their issues within these courts. Because the only way it's going to change is if more people come to stop talking about it. Stop the lip service and talk about what's going on. What has been done to you. Okay? And that's my closing statement. And whatever happens on the 6th at Rockville Family Court, it's a Tuesday, March 6th. That's where I'll be. And if anybody would like to witness this man in action, you can go there and witness it. I do wish the best to everybody that is struggling with the situation, the child support, and the dirty and ugly in this system. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Courtney. Stay on the line. Okay.